And so we thought there's literally no way that these tests are correct. There's no way anybody is this allergic to this much stuff, right? And so we're like, okay, well, let's just start doing food trials. Let's see what happens. And then I started failing every single food trial, right? Because like we were trying to like be scientific about it. Like, okay, let's get you to a point where maybe like you don't feel sick all the time, right? Like you're not 100%, but you're not, you know, gonna fall over. Because I was at the point where if you were to just barely touch me, I mean like just barely touch me, I was in excruciating pain. The inflammation response was way off the charts, right? I start failing like every single test. And we must get through like 50 foods. And we finally just kind of said, okay, what if it's all correct?
You're listening to the Healthy Parenting Handbook podcast, your guide to raising kids intentionally. I'm your host, Katie Kimball from Raising Healthy Families, and each week I interview experts to bring you the information you need to raise truly healthy, independent future adults. If you've got a minute, I'd love an honest review. That is so super helpful, and I've got something to help you too. Go to raisinghealthyfamilies.com/handbook, where you can get access to our one-pagers. This is one big Google Doc you can access from any device and find the best tips from every expert I interview. You can use it as notes to look back about a podcast that you've already listened to, skim for a podcast that you don't have time to listen to, or actually print old school your own healthy parenting handbook. Today's guest is fascinating. She's quickly becoming one of my new favorite people. I have to tell you, this was not an ideal recording situation. Kathlena warned me that she might not have perfect internet, and it turned out she actually had to sit outside the wall of her local library just to use the better Wi-Fi, which means she's outside, which means there's some wind noise. This is not how podcasting's supposed to go, but you know what? As you will hear, very many things in Kathlena, the Allergy Chef's life are imperfect. And her charism, her gift is to push through and make it work. I could not pass up the chance to interview Kathlena for you, even though you're gonna have a little bit of wind noise you have to deal with. Here's why she's on the podcast. Kathlena, known as the Allergy Chef, is one of our Life Skills Now Season 5 camp leaders, and she is a chef managing over 200 food allergies herself. Her story is absolutely crazy. And when a member of my quality control team was watching her Life Skills Now workshop, she sent me a message like, first, this is amazing. It's so packed with stuff. Second, you need to have her on your podcast, Katie. What are you doing? And I'm like, oh, of course I do. Because she said, we've got to hear her story. Everyone wants to hear this crazy, crazy story. So that's where we get to jump in today. Please meet my new friend, Kathlena, the Allergy Chef. All right, Kathlena, I have had just the utter delight of getting to know you the past few months. I'm so excited that you're a Life Skills Now camp leader because you just like ooze wisdom and you ooze love for others, and the way that you cook and the way that you talk up to people and about people with allergies is just like, it's so heartwarming. On the flip side, your story, your personal story, is one of the most terrifying stories I've ever heard. Where should we start? How did you become
Oh, geez, right? Chef? I was like, where do we start? Let's see. I guess let's just throw people right in the deep end. I personally manage more than 200 food allergies and food intolerances, can't drink most water, was given 30 days to live. Like, everything that could go wrong did go wrong with my case, except for the fact that nobody knew what was wrong with me. You know, like when I was a teenager, I went on a trip and I got incredibly sick. Like, so we were on the airplane and I was like mid-reaction. To give you an example, the reaction was essentially the equivalent of like a 36-hour seizure. Okay. So we board the airplane, like we're on a group trip. We board the plane and I'm still having this reaction. So they actually move me to first class with like oxygen. It's like this whole production. The pilots are on standby to make an emergency landing in case anything else goes wrong. Okay.
And you have at this point, just to be clear, do you have any known food allergies or environmental allergies? No.
At this point, yes, they know that I have environmental allergies, like super severe. Like if you take a blade of grass and just touch it to me, like I'm out, I'm done, right? Like, count me out. It was really bad when I was a kid. It's gotten better since the food allergies were diagnosed, like, and the whole system sort of calmed down. But before diagnosis, it was like horrific. Like I knew that there were certain foods that I just didn't do well with, but nobody had ever put the word allergy or intolerance next to it. So like nobody really knew, right? So we make it back to San Francisco. Like I kid you not, it was a whole production. Like whole plane is on standby. They send in like the EMTs, get me out on a stretcher. Like we're on the tarmac. They have an ambulance on the tarmac for me. Okay. Big deal. The only real regret I have in that whole situation, like, and I know this is really childish to say, but they didn't do lights and sirens. They did lights, but no sirens. And I was like, but can't we have sirens? It was like the middle of the night, so I guess there was no need for the sirens. But as a kid, I'm thinking, if this is my one chance, like, I'd really like the whole show. They did not give me the whole show. But so here's the wild part. So they rushed me into the emergency room, right? I'm like, top priority, top case, whatever. And I guess for once it's nice to be able to jump a line. But they keep sending in specialist after specialist, and every single one says, what happened? And I literally, my story never changes. It was, I ate the food and this started. Great, let's do a brain scan on this kid. Next one comes in. I ate the food and this started. Great, let's get them hooked up to this monitor, this monitor, this monitor, check for this, this, this. Specialist after specialist after specialist. Guess what? Not a single one of them ever asked for.
Do you have food allergies or an allergy
Not
test?
Not a single one ever said, let's do a food allergy test. Even though this 16-year-old kid shaking keeps saying, I ate the food and this started.
Jeez.
Like, could it be any more obvious, you guys? Yeah. So I was misdiagnosed most of my life, and a friend of mine who is a chiropractor with a specialty in neurology, actually, he kind of said offhand one day, he's like, I wonder if it's gluten, right? This is before gluten was like gluten, right? And kind of like in its early fad days, right? So people were like sort of hearing about it. Food allergy awareness was not what it is today. Like not even like peanut allergy awareness. Like nothing was really a thing yet, right? I was kind of still on that back end. And I was like, that's a good idea. And so I just started like eliminating foods at home on my own. And I started feeling better for the first time in my entire life. And we were like, whoa, I wonder what we just discovered. Because mind you, like we were both like super nerd scientist type people. So I started ordering all these medical tests on my own because that's the kind of person I am, right? Like I don't wait. I'm like, let me just do this thing. Turns out I was allergic to basically everything. And so we thought there's literally no way that these tests are correct. There's no way anybody is this allergic to this much stuff, right? He and I were both thinking this. And so we're like, okay, well, let's just start doing food trials. Let's see what happens. And then I started failing every single food trial, right? Because like we were trying to like be scientific about it. Like, okay, let's get you to a point where maybe like you don't feel sick all the time, right? Like you're not 100%, but you're not, going to fall over. Because I was at the point where if you were to just barely touch me, I mean like just barely touch me, I was in excruciating pain. The inflammation response was way off the charts, right? At this point, I'm well over 450 pounds just from sheer pain and inflammation. I'm not eating that kind of food, but I'm carrying that load. It was incredibly painful, okay? So I start failing like every single test. And we must get through like 50 foods. And we finally just kind of said, okay, what if it's all correct? Like, what if we come at this from the other side of, let's assume it's correct and then work backwards from there.
Like what's left?
Yeah, like kind of overnight, that's what we started doing. And now I'm feeling way better. Still not 100%, but way better. And then we had to start, well, at this point, this is where I'm on my own at this point. And he sent me off to like, because he was the kind of doctor, and I tell people this, like, if you can meet a doctor who says, I don't know what's wrong with you, but I'm going to help you, that's how you know they're good, right? Oh. So he had a bunch of friends who were specialists in different stuff, and he was sending me all over the place. He's like, we're going to get you to this guy, and we're going to get you to this guy, and we're going to do this and this. And so we're like jumping all over the place because we're trying to figure out what is wrong with you, right? Like, is anybody really born this allergic to this much? Like, there's got to be some catalyst or something, like, what is actually wrong with you? And so I'm seeing all these specialists also trying to, like, do the food things, and we just sort of kind of kept conquering. In the end, here's what it really boiled down to. And actually, the last specialist I saw must have been 10, 12 years ago. I don't know, it's been a hot minute. Okay. And the whole reason I went to her is because they do this thing called a camera pill. Have you ever heard of those? Mm-mm. Okay, it's like the coolest thing ever. You swallow a giant pill and it's got a camera inside and it takes pictures of you from the inside. And then they can analyze the photos to see if they can figure out something that might be wrong with you. But it only photographs a specific section of the GI tract. Like, you can't do the whole thing for whatever reason. So I was like, that's fine. Let me just start there, right? And there were only 2 places that I could find that would do it, like, within a driving distance, like, somewhere reasonable. So I go to see the specialist. I lay out all the data, everything that I've figured out on my own, all the things. And she just stares at me and she says, here's the thing. Based on everything that you've done on your own, I think you already have the answer. You don't need this. She's like, you'd just be spending more money. She's like, I could do this other test over here for you if you want, just to confirm a couple of things for you, but I really don't think you need me. I think you already figured it all out. And guess what the answer was?
You knew it already. It sounds
like. The answer was simply allergic to everything.
So tell me, what can you actually eat? Can you list those foods?
Okay. So water, tiger nut oil, salt, bison, sometimes venison.
Yeah, 5.
That's 5. Those are like the 5 safest things. Like if I want to be in zero pain, that's what I'm eating.
So you're eating salted meat with tiger nut oil.
Pretty much, yeah.
And can you eat seasonings at all? Any flavor?
No, like even like some basic dried herbs, man, those tear my intestines up. They're
No.
like, "Oh, hey, let's have a party," and I'm like,
What?
"Let's not." No, it's not fun at all. Let's see, what else do I eat? I don't have any vegetables. I can sometimes eat strawberries depending on where they're from, and oh, I have sheep's cheese. That's got to count for something because
That's huge.
I get it imported from France though, so it's like super expensive, so I don't do it all the time. But when I do, I eat cheese. It's delicious. Which is why sometimes I actually consider moving to like the EU because like their food standards are way different than here.
Mm-hmm.
And believe it or not, like I'm dying to go to Sweden because they've got like some wild reindeer meat, but they won't ship internationally. I checked. So like if I could just like take a boat over there, maybe I might be able to get something good to eat. But yeah. And then if I can source truly corn-free egg yolks, I can sometimes tolerate that, not all the time. I can tolerate corn-free maple syrup, usually. Sometimes I can tolerate pecans, just depends. Because like it's not just the food allergies, it's all the other bits underneath it as well, right? And what's really interesting is there was this doctor, he was talking once, and he's a very interesting dude. He said the younger you are when a problem starts and the longer it goes undiagnosed, the more likely it is to be permanent.
Oh, wow.
It resonated with me because how many children do I advocate for, right? Like it's why I push so hard on advocating for kids because if you see something wrong with a child and you can hop on it, they won't end up like me, right? Like, was I born this sick? No, I was not, right? This happened over time. There comes a point where the body just says, I'm done. Like I'm out, you know?
Yeah.
And, you know, when was that point for me? If I had to guess, probably 15, 16 years old. I mean, because I mean, that's a long time, right? 15 or 16 years for the human body to be constantly barraged with what it cannot process. And it finally just says, I'm done.
So tell me some of the biggest adaptations, even beyond food, because you have environmental allergies too. So obviously you eat a very, very limited diet. Although we also have to talk about the fact that you're a chef and you make food for others that tastes amazing and you can't taste it, which is
I don't
crazy.
eat it. People think it's crazy. And you know what's so funny? Anybody listening to this, they're going to think it's wild. But just hang on with me for a second. For me, most food, and by most I mean like 99% of food, is disgusting and repulsive. What a lot of people don't know is that when you have a complex medical condition like mine, a lot of us, whenever we gather, we trade war stories, right? And most of us have determined, even pre-diagnosis, we did not like the taste of foods that we were allergic or intolerant to, like without knowing, right? It's almost like the body just kind of naturally knows, like, hey, don't eat this thing, right?
Wow.
Which is why I always tell people, don't force children to eat food because you don't know why they're rejecting it, okay? Like, still offer, but just don't force. Like, it's on the table. Like, they could take a nibble if they want. If they're in there, and if they're out, they're out. Like, that's fine, right?
Yeah, that's a writer downer, parents. That is also what I teach.
Yeah. And so it's like, for me, as a child, food was essentially like a punishment because I really did not like food. Did not. And the older I just didn't like anything, you know? As an adult doing food trials and things, it was like, this is disgusting, you know? Like, and sometimes I'll text a friend, I'll be like, why would you let me make a recipe with such and such in it? I'm like, that is the most vile thing I have ever eaten. And they were like, did you fail the food trial? I'm like, yes, but that's beside the point. Point is, it was disgusting. And I'm out here telling other people to buy it and eat it. Like, it's like this great thing. I mean, it turns out it is a great thing, just not great to me. And that's the funny thing about what I do. For anyone wondering, like, well, how on earth did you become a chef then? I did not start life looking to be a chef. I actually have a degree in IT. And I specialize in all things like computers, photography, like networking, marketing, design, all that stuff. Like that was my jam. And I literally woke up and could cook and bake from never having followed a recipe. It was truly a gift from God. I found myself suddenly the guardian of 4 children to save them from an abusive situation. And suddenly one of these kids, well, we knew one was born with food allergies. Turns out they all had food issues that needed to be solved. But I woke up when I could cook and I could bake, so I just did. It was that simple. the only reason I eventually got training, and you're going to love this. I wanted to go on Top Chef, and I noticed that they were having people cook with like steak and fish and eggs and stuff. And because my kids were allergic to that, I was like, I don't know how to cook steak. And then I'm going to go on national TV and make a fool of myself. So I got training because I didn't want to like what my kids were like, just go on the YouTube, watch the videos. And I'm like, but how do I know those people are even doing it right? Like, I don't actually know. So I got like professional training just so I would know, right? So rest assured, if I end up on one of those shows, I won't embarrass myself.
But you can't touch some foods.
That is correct.
Or breathe the air when like
correct.
How did that work with chef school and life? Like what do you have to do to be safe?
The nice thing is, when I finally did get training, it was during lockdowns, so I was able to do it all online. It kind of worked in my favor that time. I was like, oh, everybody's staying home? Cool. And this is still available? Great, let me do it now. Did
you just have to give away to your neighbors all the food you were cooking?
I mean, my kids ate a lot of it. Like, so they all have different food allergies. So, like, you know, like when we did the section on like how to cook steak or whatever, my kid who's allergic to beef, obviously he didn't eat any of that stuff. My other kids ate it, and they were like, "Oh man, this is so good!" Like they were all in for it, and it was great for them because they like we never had beef in the house. It was just never a thing. Because I was like, well, I'm going to cook a protein. It's going to be one that everyone can eat, right? And so they had never really, unless they had like gone out to a restaurant and had beef, we just never had beef at home. Like there were just certain foods that my kids just didn't grow up with, right? Like they didn't really grow up with bread, which a lot of people think is weird. And I'm like, here's the thing about bread. Like I have a soapbox about free from bread. Okay. Like gluten-free bread is the size of your pinky finger and costs the amount of like a car, right? And it's usually like a pinky finger with holes in it. Why am I buying that for my kids? But then the burger buns are ridiculous. Like, okay, the sandwich slices, they're the size of your pinky. And then the burger buns are the size of your head. And I'm like, this makes no sense. Why am I going to give them a burger bun the size of Texas for like a burger this big? So I just didn't buy bread. It was like a thing. And my kids grew up with like rice and noodles and all the other good carbs. And one of my kids loves potatoes to death. They just, even as adults, they don't think to buy bread, which I think is hilarious because I know that's my fault. And I'm like, yeah, my kids don't buy bread.
It makes sense. Your philosophy is kind of starting to poke its head out. You said, if I'm going to cook a protein, it's going to be one that everyone can eat.
Yes.
And I know that that's like near and dear to your heart. So what's your philosophy on allergies? Like, how do you like to talk to families when they find out that maybe their child has a newly diagnosed food allergy?
Yeah. So there's a couple ways to think about it. The first way, which I think is always the easiest, if it's financially doable, is eliminate the allergen, not the person, right? So, like, let's say your kid is diagnosed allergic to peanuts. It's actually pretty easy, focus on those quotes, easy, to eliminate peanuts completely from your home and not have, like, too big of a shift. Like, if your kid is in the 30% group who can't do shared equipment with peanuts, it's going to be a bigger shift, like a dramatic shift. Whereas if they're only in the 70% group and they just can't have peanuts, but they could have, like, maybe it was, like, made in a shared facility with peanuts, if that's okay. It's actually not going to be a huge shift in your home, right? So rest assured. Like, you're going to be afraid at first because you're like, oh, my goodness, there's peanuts. And that's normal. That's cool. And then eventually you sort of, like, get your footing and you kind of go, oh, we just avoid this, that, and this, and this, and this. And we're good, right? It's not, like, we can do this. When they're allergic to a lot of things or a lot of things that you're not comfortable doing, right? So, like, one of my kids, he's wheat, milk, egg, beef, all bovine, red meat. Like it's kind of a lot of things when you put it together, but there's a lot of things he can still have, right? He can still have fish, he can still have shellfish, but usually I don't cook shellfish because of my severe airborne shellfish allergy. So it's like, it gets kind of dicey, which is funny because he loves shrimp. So I'm like, okay, I'll wear my respirator and make shrimp this one time. You know, he can still have like turkey, pork. So like we just pick the proteins that he can have, right? I was the only one allergic to vegetables, right? I'm the outlier, right? If you have a kid like me, you're not eliminating the allergen, you're eliminating the person, right? But for pretty much everybody else, you can just eliminate the allergens, right? Like, and then we kind of say, okay, we got our proteins picked. So my kids grew up on a lot of pork and chicken. Like they think that's just like the cat's meow, okay? And then vegetables, right? Like figure out the vegetables you like, figure out the fruits they like, and just kind of go from there. in terms of dietary restrictions and different needs, so one of my kids, he's essentially severely intolerant, because technically he's not allergic, but he is severely intolerant to cane sugar and just sugars in general. So he has to have like a really high, like really tightly dialed in sugar count, and it's natural and added sugars, right? So if you give him, so like he'll literally flip out and lose his mind if he drinks like a big tall glass of milk on an empty stomach, because there's just too much natural lactose in it. Whereas, like, if you give him a few ounces of milk paired with, this, and this, he'll be okay. His meal limit is usually about 10 grams of added sugar, which, to give someone an example, there's 28 grams in an ounce. So, 10 added grams of sugar. So, I did a lot of refined sugar-free cooking just naturally. So, we use a lot of maple, date, things like that. Because my kids, they like sweet food. They can't help themselves. So, it's like, how do you give a kid with a sweet tooth sugar without giving him sugar, without giving him corn? Because a lot of those weird sugars, as I like to call them, like your stevia, swerves, monk fruits, etc., they claim they're from X, but it turns out most of them are really derived from corn. Ooh. So we couldn't even bring those in the house. And he actually flipped out once when having something made with one of those fake sugars. So I was like, okay, well, we're not going in that direction ever again. So I had to learn really fast about like organics and chemicals and food processing and what does actual farming look like? Like, how does it actually get to your plate? Because, like, a lot of people think, oh, that must have been horrible. I'm like, no, it was actually pretty cool to learn all this stuff, because the silver lining is a lot of people don't realize this about my kids. They were, like, really sick when they were kids. So the first year I had custody of them, they had 400 doctor's appointments combined. Okay. I want you to guess. So within, like, the first year or so is when I started figuring out all the food stuffs. The following year, how many combined doctor's appointments did they have? Take a guess.
8.
4.
Ooh, 1 each. Well-toned checkup.
That was it. Like, taking them from 400 to 4, that should tell you something about what I figured out. Oh. That is the big secret, right? Like, people want to know, like, how do you get healthy? How do you do this? How do you do this other thing? You start with the 5 pillars of health. That's what I call it. It's air, water, food, movement, medicine. And by medicine, I mean anything over the counter, injected, prescribed, etc. Right? Mm-hmm. Here's the thing. You were not born deficient in Tylenol. You were not born deficient in Advil. Right? Like, if you are on anything, prescribed or over the counter, I want you to stop and think, was I born deficient in this? Now, in a few rare cases, you really were born with like a genetic issue and you're missing a critical enzyme and you have to take this thing to give you enzymes, right? Like, that I understand. For everybody else, if you're not in that boat, what's the root cause? And if there's a root cause, can you solve it? Because if you can, that's your ticket to freedom, right? I'm a big believer in that, like huge believer. Like, let's get our tickets to freedom, folks.
Yes. And you've seen it happen. And if I remember your story correctly, both you and one of your kids were very obese, carrying so much extra weight, but like undeservedly. It wasn't like you were eating junk food and sugar and stuff.
I was over 450 pounds, and now you see me now, and I'm not, right? Mm-hmm. It is amazing to me what food can do to the body. So I personally mimic a lot of rare diseases, not rare diseases, obesity, cancer, Job's disease, Raynaud's, you name it, I mimic it in terms of symptoms. Okay, I have hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of symptoms depending on what you feed me and how much of it you gave me.
Yeah, it was like you were giving your body poison and it was reacting in all sorts of ways.
Exactly.
So foods that would be good and healthy for other people were not good and healthy for you.
Exactly. That's exactly it. Because, like, it's like I tell my friends, I get so sick and tired of those angry vegans on the internet who are like, everybody has to eat plant-based. You're all horrible humans for eating animals. And I'm like, dude, if I ate your diet, I'd be dead in 10 minutes.
Right. Like,
maybe get off your high horse for a minute, right? Like, no two people are the same. That's what I'm always trying to drive home to people. No two people are the same, right? It's like anytime people even want to think two people are the same, I just tell them, what happens if you feed everybody on the planet 10 peanuts? And they kind of go, oh, right? Because peanut awareness is so good these days, they kind of make that jump and they go, oh, some of those people would die. And I'm like, no two people are the same.
Yeah.
Period.
Yeah.
It's just that easy.
I know, right? Is Kathlena's story totally crazy? We are splitting the episode into 2, so this is your stop point for today. But I hope you have already fallen in love with Kathlena as much as I have, and wait until part 2, where you get to see even more of her heart. We're going to talk about why this information is important, even for families without any allergies, and how we can really build community around food, no matter what the person can or cannot eat. Thank you for listening to this episode of the Healthy Parenting Handbook. I'm Katie Kimball from Raising Healthy Families, and I certainly hope that your brain feels fed, your heart feels full, and you feel connected, knowing that there are other parents out there also trying to raise healthy, independent future adults. And now you know where to find the handbook. Friends, look up the Healthy Parenting Handbook podcast wherever you listen. Download some interesting sounding episodes. Subscribe. That's so helpful. I very much appreciate it. And if you've got 60 seconds, thank you in advance for leaving an honest review on iTunes, Apple Podcasts, wherever you listen to this one. And remember that if you prefer reading, or you just don't have time to listen to an episode, or if you heard something in today's episode and thought, what did she say? I need a cheat sheet for that. Oh, we make those too. Get those quick skim notes, those one pagers at raisinghealthyfamilies.com/handbook. When you are an email subscriber, you get them all the time.